Bonjour, hello, guten Tag, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here at this conference with our strong topic, the streaming tax, a famous streaming tax, his impact on French music market. First, we will have with Jean-Philippe Thiellay a conversation, and then if you feel you want to ask a question, you can do it. My guest, Jean-Philippe Thiellay, since January 2020, the president of the so-called Centre National de la Musique, CNM. It's a public body in France. It's really an essential link in the music industry. And the aim, if I'm right, the aim of the CNM is to sustain, to develop the French music industry. Jean-Philippe Thiellay has had a couple of jobs in his life. We can say he was, during his career, always between music and politics. You work at very, very different places, and as a diplomat, as a member of ministerial offices, yes, and opera director. And also you've published 4 books about your real music love, I can imagine, the opera, one of them, maybe. And thank you very much. Merci for accepting this invitation, Jean-Philippe, to this Republica conference at the Reeperbahn Festival in Hamburg. Before we come to our topic, let's open our conversation with something that really impressed the world in the last weeks, the Olympic Games, and after that, the Paralympic Games. It was an incredible moment, not only for lovers of sport, but also for people who are in touch with music. I got the impression this was the biggest global showcase of French music ever. And my first question, Jean-Philippe, is how did you experience this moment as the CNN boss?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the invitation. Well, the CNM was absolutely not involved in the music programmation of the Olympics or Paralympics, so I'm really free to speak about that with a huge admiration and bravo to the team of the COJO, the organizers, and of Thomas Joly, because I think that it was the most beautiful Olympics and Paralympics on the music point of view. I don't speak of the rest. I have an idea, but I won't mention it. On the musical point of view, the most important word is diversity, because we listen to Ravel, to Bizet, to Aya Nakamura, to La Marseillaise, extra. So the diversity to electro, that was incredible, because the musical diversity in France is really brilliant. And thanks to world pop star, not only French stars, we could talk to the whole world with this music. So that was brilliant. And diversity is the raison d'être of the National Center for Music, the CNM. Defend the diversity, promote the diversity. It's not only a defensive way of thinking, you know, the exception culturelle. Yes, okay. But it can be not offensive, an expanding vision of diversity. Diversity is wealthness, is richness, and I hope that the whole world enjoyed. And if I believe the figures of the streaming platform, the Olympics and Paralympics has a positive effects on the streaming account of those artists, so it's good.
You mean the sales and the streaming figures have increased a lot, yeah, I know. Do you have any idea why, I ask you this question because he complained a lot, why an artist like David Guetta, he's really not my favorite, was not part of this big show?
No, actually, I don't have any ideas about that. You know, programming artists is always complicated because are they available? Are the condition of production okay for them and for their team? I don't have any ideas about the programmation. That was a secret until the last hour. And one of the most beautiful opera singer of the world, Benjamin Bernheim, who was in the conclusion of the Olympics, knew that a few weeks before. So programming is really complicated.
Before we go to streaming text, Jean-Philippe, maybe we should try to introduce the CNM, the Centre National de la Musique. It's a French public institution created 2020 with you. And if I'm right, it was that the pandemic started a couple of weeks later. And you are placed under the supervision of the Ministry of Culture in France. And you have a lot of activities. You support the writing, the composition, the performance, the production, the publishing, promotion, distribution, and the broadcasting of music. And this is a huge challenge, I can imagine. How many people are working at the CNM, and what is the CNM exactly?
Yes, CNM was created 1st January 2020, and 8 weeks after that the crisis came. But CNM is not only a supporting machine, a cash machine. It's much more than that, and I would really insist of the observation function, to take figure, to analyze, to think forward, to help the industry to think forward. That maybe our first mission. So we publish reports, we build bridges with universities and research centers to make our industry in France and in Europe stronger. And we need to understand better what's going on, especially in the streaming and recorded music industry. That's complicated. Artists are complaining, labels are complaining, platforms are complaining. What's going on really? We are independent, we are public, but private sectors and companies are involved in the funding of the CNM and in the governance in my board. And so it's pretty complicated on a political with a large P, with a high P, because we need to negotiate, to make compromise, but with the general interest in our all-day job with the team. It's a small public body, 120 persons. It's a team of passionate people. And we work under the supervision of the Ministry of Culture, as you mentioned, but the board is 25 members, so a lot of diversity in the board, and we are trying to move forward, to defend and to promote the music industry in France and in Europe.
I saw some reports last time, for example, there's a new one concerning the music diversity in France.
Yeah, we publish regular barometers, you say that in English, baromètre, diversity, export, and diversity on radio broadcasting, on digital platform, on the production of recorded music, and we publish specific studies like user-centric. That was the first worldwide study on user-centric versus market-centric model. We published the first worldwide study about fake streams, what's going on the platform, who is cheating, and well, everyone. But how to fight against those problems. We published last Wednesday the first worldwide study on the carbon impact of the recorded music industry, how to reduce this impact because the climate change has to be tackled. So we try to really do what did not exist before. It's only première, you know? So that's not easy, but we believe that it's absolutely necessary to observe, to understand well. And I didn't mention the word training. We are training centers for professionals of the music industry, not artistic point of view, not technical, but on the administrative, professional, business side of training, fight against sexual harassment as well, extra. So we are a training center for professionals as well.
I like very much one of your studies concerning the crisis of the music magazines in France, especially, and the slowly death of this print landscape, and also the dangers concerning the music journalism.
Yes, we are really the common house, la maison commune. You mentioned the magazines, the newspaper. It's really important in the knowledge of music, the understanding, the general culture about music, jazz, classical, pop, technique, etc. So we try to defend this press, but we help, and they are stakeholders and members in a way, from the composer to the small disc shop in a small city in France. Everyone has his place in the CNM. That did not exist before the 1st January 2020. So classical music, pop music, every kind of economic model or every kind of aesthetics, they are in the CNM.
You just mentioned this idea of common house of music. That sounds very good. And everybody knows that the world of music is very complicated nowadays. There is a huge competition, and you have winners, you have losers, you have people with very different perspectives concerning economic models. And as we know, you started more or less with the corona pandemic at a very, very difficult time. What is your method to keep the French industry together? You have a huge responsibility how to get things done with so many people around you, with your team of around 120 people only.
Well, the law, the CNM was created by the government and the parliament by law. There is a very important word in the first Article 1 of the law: permanent consultation, permanent discussion. First time I read those words, I said, "Oh my God, I will spend hours in meetings and we negotiate everything." No, that's not. That's a very modern way of not administrating, because we don't administrate the music in France. We don't, but to understand and to help on the right issues. So. Concertation permanente, permanent consultation. That means that the professionals are at home at the CNM. We decide, we have a board, there is a chairman, we decide, of course, but we try to build consensus on the programs, on the funding, on the studies, but we don't negotiate the results of the studies. We are independent. Is that strange for a public body? But we are, I am. So that balance, that's not easy, but that's original. There is no other CNM in the world, I think. But we believe, and I'm happy to say that the French government, for the first time in decades, believe now that there is something to do with the music industry, with the whole music industry, which is a way of soft power abroad, which is a way of creating richness. Maybe 350,000 people are working in the music industry in France. That's not bad. That's more than in the movie industry. That represents maybe 6 billion euros a year of revenues. That's more than the movie industry. And finally, the government said we should do something with that. Previously, the Ministry of Culture was interested in opera and orchestras and high-level music, you know. Festivals, pop music industry, that's okay. Now there is a conscience that's industry and culture, the two words function together, and the impulsion was given in 2017, and then the CNM was created, and that's good. And so I think that, to answer your question, that the industry members, companies, labels, majors or smaller, live industry as well, despite all the divisions, I would say the hates, very strong, they believe that together they will be stronger than divided. I hope so.
Let me mention that you have a very strong team in Germany. You have Daniel Winkel. He's a tireless guy here, and German professionals love him and his team. Yesterday we had the French artist pitch, and I can say it was again a very great professional moment and very well done. Yeah.
Germany is really important for France. We are neighbors, we are friends. The story is a little bit complicated, but Germany is the first market for French artists and French companies. It represents on the digital and the recorded music more than 11% of all the sales. That's the first market. We are important in Europe, and a lot of themes have to be tackled on a European level, not German level, not French level. AI, ecological transition, climate change, even in the music industry. We have to tackle that on the European point, on the European level, and that's why we have to work together. And so, and for artists, it's easier to organize tour in Germany than in Australia or New Zealand. So we have to build those bridges, and in the other direction as well. I regret that if you make a poll, I think that very little French people could give some names of German artists, and on the other side the same. We have to build bridges, stronger bridges.
Well, we'll come back to your relationship between France and Germany a bit later. Let's talk now about our main topic, about this streaming text. A lot of people don't know it yet, neither do music professionals. I talk with a lot of professionals here, and they are ignoring the fact that since the 1st of January of this year, music platforms such as Deezer, Spotify, Apple, TikTok, and maybe more must pay a tax of 1.2% of their sales to the French state, and the idea to the CNN. And the idea behind is financing the French music industry, especially new talents. Of course, it's a very exciting topic, and a lot of people were surprised when we talked about that the last 2 days here during the Reeperbahn Festival in Hamburg. It's a very complicated thing, and I would like you to explain that in 3 steps. Back to last year. First, how did it come about? Then, what were the reactions of the platforms, and what is the situation now? Let's try with the beginning of this story. Why was this money needed, and why this law? What happened first?
When CNM was created in 2020, the lawmakers gave us a lot of missions, helping composers, helping venues, helping festivals, helping new recorded music projects, innovation, etc. But not necessarily with all the financial responses. On the live industry, there is the answer, there is a tax. You know, France is sometimes the world champions of a lot of sports, but tax as well. But there is a tax on the ticketing of live industry that CNM collect and gives back to the live industry as well. That represent this year 50 million euros. So 3.5% of the ticket price of a Taylor Swift concert or of a small jazz club concert. That gives 50 million euros, and we give it back to the companies and to the festivals, live industry. But in the recorded music industry, there is not such a system. During the crisis, the French government, through the CNM, helped and gave a lot of money to the labels, even to the biggest, because we needed to support them, to be sure that after the crisis there would not be a musical desert, meaning the failure of a lot of labels. And so we gave them a lot of money. How to be sure that the diversity, that the innovation, that the French-speaking music, the French chansons, the world music, the classical music will keep to invest. Because we see that there is a risk that with the auto-production, a lot of artists produce themselves. There are maybe a lot of opportunity, but a lot of weakness as well. How to be sure that there will be investment in the new music, new recorded music. That's why we used the money to experiment, to help new projects, and to evaluate the needs at more or less 15 million euros a year to help the recorded music industry in France to go abroad, to invest, to tackle the ecological transition, extra. 15 million euros. The Ministry of Culture last year proposed to the labels, to the platforms, to the collective rights organization to fund the CNM on a voluntary basis. How much would you give to fund those programs? The result was disappointing. And so, at the end of the day, with a very strong impulsion of the Président de la République, Emmanuel Macron, everything began on the Fête de la Musique 23. Finally, the government and the parliament decided to create a new article of law. That's this tax. So a long time of studies, of research, of consultation. We explored several ways because a tax at the end, maybe it's disappointing, maybe it's not the best solution, it may be the less worse, if you allow me these awful words, but it's a guarantee to finance those programs and to help projects we will talk about later.
So we're talking about around 15 million euro per year, 1.2, and then you had the decision and you have published it. And I do remember you had a lot of reactions. It was like a bombshell in France, with very long discussions, a fierce battle between the platforms and the French government. The big players, they will not agree with that decision, definitely not. And I remember you had a kind of anti-tax campaign against your law. And the French Spotify boss, Antoine Monin, said it's not acceptable, it's really unfair. And Spotify mentioned the closure of the Paris office. They had a kind of disinformation campaign. They increased the subscription of the price of Spotify in France, and they decided to stop the cooperation with some festivals, les Francopholies de La Rochelle and the Printemps de Bourges. How do you see this historical step today, Jean-Philippe?
I must say, I understand 100% those reactions, because we have to remember that the end of the 90s and beginning of the century was really a tough period for the labels. They took the crisis of the piracy extra very strongly. They lost a lot of money. So I understand the sensitivity of those companies. That's a long way for them to get back to the positive situation. So I understand that. I won't comment communication, strategy. That's not my business. My business is how to build something very strong for the French companies, European companies, and for the creation, for the diversity. As I said, maybe it's not the best solution, but my bet is that we have to work together very well on several levels. First of all, streaming platforms are the best news for the music industry for decades. That's a good news for artists, a good news for labels, a good news for the consumers. That means for the passionate, for the audience. You have the whole music production on your cell phone worldwide for 10 euros a month. It's a dream. So we wish all the best to the platform, really, especially the virtuous one who pays tax, who remunerates correctly the artist and the label extra. Second, we have to make those platforms stronger in France. The percentage of French people who are subscribers is lower than in other countries, Germany, UK, etc. So we have to promote those offers because it's good to pay a subscription to get music. We have a progression possibility and we will help them to do that. We are working in those days on a campaign to say to the French people, we won't say choose this one, it's better than the other. We'll say go on a subscription on a music platform, you won't leave it, it will change your life. Second. Third, we have to work well together in consultation, that's not vertical. I don't decide how to use this money. We decide in the board, in a general assembly with a lot of platforms as well. We talk to them every week, to Spotify, to Deezer, to Amazon, to Apple, to YouTube. The others, it's more difficult. And so how to use this money, and my bet is that in a couple of years they will come back to the government and to the CNM saying, well, it was not such a bad idea because it created something. That's the challenge. And the real question that you don't ask, but that I will answer now.
What are you doing with the money?
Yes, first of all, okay, I'll answer this one. We'll see the next
That's
question
important,
after that. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. 100% of the tax is reinvested in projects. Not a cent pay my salary or pay the rent of the office. Not a cent, not a euro. Exactly like in the live industry. 100% is reinvested. For what? For new discs and new albums. We help several projects like the last albums of Justice, well known here, or Compromat, well known in Berlin. We don't help the big stars who don't need us. We help projects that we think they will get success. That's not an aesthetic judgment. There is a commission with professionals that give their times for free, saying, well, that project is good because there is a good strategy, it's serious, it's solid. We should give them 10,000 euros, 5,000, 15,000. We help the export, the international development, especially here in Reeperbahn. Tonight, Zao de Zagazan is starring, is performing. She was in Reeperbahn last year. She was in Groningen in last January. We help her because we believe it will bring success to France, to his company, to her company, to her management, etc. We had L'Impératrice until Coachella. Excuse me, at Coachella, well. And so sometimes I heard that we take money to the successful companies and to the successful artists to give money to unknown artists. That's not the case. We want to help successful group. We help innovation. We help ecological transition. We help fight against sexual harassment in the music industry. We can talk for hours on this theme. So that's how we use the money.
Yes, but there is a difference between Justice, well-known worldwide, and newcomers. So I understand that this money, 15 millions, are to support the newcomers. It's not really only for newcomers, so you are...
Not only. On the international basis, we look very carefully if they do have followers, if there is a strategy. Why do you want to organize a tour in Mexico? Well, we have fans, we have very good contact, we have 3 or 4 different venues. Okay, we will help. If someone wants to organize something which obviously is not serious, he will not get public money because it's public money. So it's a very precise analysis. My team analyzes that. We take the opinion of the professional in our commission, and then I sign the document and the money goes. That works.
You just mentioned that you have regularly conversations with the professionals of this platform. What is nowadays your relationship with them? I mean, is it like last December, like let's fight, or is it a cool dialogue and looking for the future with them?
Well, it's an experiment. I'm here very very modest tone because it's only 9 months. I mentioned a bet. I bet that, but after 9 months, I can say that we talk to them every single week. We need them. They need us. We need them to make study, user-centric, market-centric. We need to work with them, and probably they need us to understand better. We are not. We were not an enemy. We are. The government made the decision. The CNM didn't create the tax, and during the years 22 and 23, I was saying I need those 15 million euros to help music for sure. But if the government gives it directly from the state budget, it will be okay. If it will be a voluntary contribution, it will be okay. If it's a tax, probably it's better because it's equal for all the taxpayer. It's sure for years. So, but I was not a part in these fights, and that's why I believe it's okay to keep talking with them.
So they love you.
Please write chat on the Republica website if you don't agree. No. My goal is not to be loved. The CNM has not to be loved. We have missions. We have to achieve those missions in the general interest. We are not a syndicate. We are not a federation. We are a public body for the music.
Let's come back to your relationship with Germany, because you're here in Hamburg, and as you mentioned, Germany is very important for the French music industry. Here in this country, we have the Initiative Musik. It promotes the music industry in Germany on behalf of the German government. It's another focus. It's concerning jazz, rock, and pop, and it's not that huge compared to the CNM. It's completely different. It's a federal system in Germany. France is, as we know, differently organized. But have you already spoken to the Germans about this idea of the streaming tax? And I've noticed the German press, shown very little interest in it. What is about your dialogue with the German part concerning the streaming tax?
Well, as you mentioned, we have a team in Berlin, and they are available to explain to whoever would be interested in how it works. I'm not here to advertise and to campaign for tax. Or every single country is different. I observe with huge interest what is going on in Canada, for instance, with their project. We had questions from the Netherlands, from Spain. We are available to help to understand how it works. And don't forget to answer the questions that you didn't ask me. It's really important. I will be back to that. So we are available, but I'm not here to campaign for the streaming tax. And Germany, it's different. The competencies are not the federal state. You know that better than I do. So the tradition of the different states have to be taken into consideration. But the question is, do you have the means to help the music to be stronger? Because the market on the world level is rising up very strongly. And if we don't do anything, Europe and French production and probably German production will be probably strong in their country, but very weak on an international level. That's the issue. And I guess that in Germany, in Austria, in Italy, the question is more or less the same. Do we let the market decide? Well, some of the companies say yes. I say no, because emerging artists, you mentioned jazz, world music, classical music. If we don't do anything, they will disappear. They will disappear. Will the world be richer in this situation? The answer is no. And
yeah, I would like to, because you mentioned Canada, and Canada is very important. It's a huge music market, neighbor of the USA. And remarkably, Canada has also started new taxes this year, not only concerning music platforms, it also concerns Netflix, video streaming. And the Canadians are talking about not 1.2%, but about 5%, which is much more money of the revenue revenues of Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Netflix, and others. Did you have conversation with the Canadians about that? I mean, how did it happen?
Yes, they ask us. They ask us how we dealt with this issue. But again, it's very different because you mentioned Netflix. On a European level, we managed to create a contribution of the video platform to defend the creation of video and movie industry in Europe. That's very different. I would mention as well that the VAT on the music industry is probably different in France as everywhere in the world. So the systems are not exactly the same. And I observe with huge interest what's going on, but I know that in Canada there are lawsuits against this tax. It's not the case in France against the streaming tax, and that's a good point. I hope, again, that with our work in progress, we will convince that it was a good idea. But I will, before we...
Your question, yeah.
Yes, the question was, who really pays? Who is paying? I don't want to say who is the taxpayer, because the taxpayers you mentioned are the music platform for free or for subscription, YouTube, Deezer, Spotify, etc., TikTok, Meta. But what is really going on after that? Do the label contribute or not? Do the collective management organization contribute or not? I don't have the answer, but I really like this expression, French expression, la poutre travaille. In English, it would give the beam is shifting, meaning that in a liberal economy like ours, when the law is changed, the economic actors adapt themselves. At this very moment, the platforms have to pay. That's the law. But I'm sure that the labels need the platforms, and the platform needs the labels, and they need artists. And I'm sure that with the time going, they will find a balance. And that's important that this very small amount of money, because we are talking of 1.2% of the revenues, that's nothing, will be shared with the different steps of the music production. That's what we will observe in the next months and the next year. But they have to adapt themselves to this new situation, which will create wealthness and richness.
Thank you for answering to your question. Jean-Philippe, some bosses of the digital music platforms are certainly a bit worried and a bit afraid nowadays, afraid that this tax will spill over and be adopted in other countries. You tend to say that would be a good idea to close our discussion, because we are looking to the future now, and France is an exception. You have other huge markets, and if you mean it's a practical solution for the future of the music landscapes, the quality of the music and the future of artists, could it be a good idea to extend that law to other territories?
Well, France has way too far the habit to say we have the solution, we are the best, please follow us. I'm very cautious, and it's only 9 months reality. But when I listen to artists and to labels, indies, all over the world, they say, wow, in France you are lucky. It's good to be an artist in France during the pandemic, that for sure, because they could keep going with public money. But yes, they say we are lucky, and that in France we have a politic, we have a Ministry of Culture, extra. So you can find other way to support money, but what I'm sure about is that the market is not the answer. Never in the classical music it wouldn't have existed. Music wouldn't have existed. We wouldn't have had opera, orchestra, symphony without the creation, meaning subsidies in the classical music. In the live industry, the same. Everyone gets more or less public money, even sponsorship or patronage. It's a way of, even in the United States, it's a way of supporting music, because there are tax cuts. Tax cuts is public money. So there are other solutions that implementing a streaming tax, for sure. But if you don't do anything, you will lose market share in the competition, because it's a very competitive world. China is now the 5th market in the recording music industry. We are 6th, so we lost. But we have to keep going, and so yeah, we are always happy in the CNM to share views, to explain, to understand better. My team in Berlin is here. We have an international team dedicated to those issues. You can find every information in English on our website,
CNM, yeah.
cnm.fr, and the goal is to have more music, to have more, and the market is not the answer.
We have 1 or maybe 2 more minutes, if I'm right. So if there is a question in the audience. Oh, yes. Should we have a microphone? Yeah. That's good. Thank you.
Hi there, Tom Larkin. I'm from Australia. I actually run a conference, or have run a conference similar to Reeperbahn called Big Sound. We've been dealing with this topic around the table, both in Australia and New Zealand. And some of the repercussions from the Canadian decision have put pressure on a lot of players in the industry and around government. I'm wondering how you came up with the number 1.2, because Canada's gone to 5%. And so now we're dealing with how do we in Australia and perhaps New Zealand look at this if we go that way, what is the number?
So in France, it's 1.2 on the revenues of the subscription when you are a paying platform. Musical, only music streaming platform. 1.2 of the subscriptions. After a general revenue of 20 million euros. If you are a very small music platform, under 20 million revenues a year, you don't pay anything. It's only for the amount above 20 million euros. For the free platform, we take 1/3 of their revenues coming from an advertisement, after 20 million as well. That's 1.2 because the government decided it was 1.2 with a global evaluation of the revenue of 15 million, more or less. We hope it will be more next year. I think that it's different from the Canadian rate because the VAT, I don't know the VAT rate in the Canada, but it's 20.5 on the music industry in France. It's pretty high. On the video and movie industries, they have the European Netflix has to pay something to foster the European creation. So that's why the Canadian way of taxing streaming, musical and video is different. That's why.
Thank you very much. I got signed. We have to finish this discussion. I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And Jean-Philippe, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Vielen Dank. Jean-Philippe spricht nämlich Deutsch.
Ja, ein bisschen.
Sagte mir mal, es ist gerostet.
Ja, das war meine erste Fremdsprache, aber sehr viel Zeit ja, aber das macht immer Spaß, Deutsch zu sprechen und in Hamburg oder in Berlin oder in München zu sein. So, herzlichen Dank und bis bald.
Thank you very much, Jean-Philippe.